Well, good morning, friends. As we are gathering here in the forum or gathering online, welcome. I'm Susan Russell. I'm one of the priests on staff here. My pronouns are she, her, and what we're here for today is an introduction to sacred ground, which is going to start with a little bit of a disclaimer and maybe a historical note for those who watch this later on YouTube at some day. We are gathering in the forum at All Saints Church under the shadow of the unprecedented disaster of the Eaton Canyon fire. We have lost 9,000 dwellings in our community of Altadena, and we stand with our siblings in Palisades who have likewise experienced tremendous loss. Here at All Saints, we have 66 families affiliated with the congregation who have lost everything, and a significant number of other people who are still displaced, including me. We're not yet back in our house. It is still standing, for which we are immensely grateful, but we're waiting on gas, we're waiting on cleaning, we're waiting on water to get back in. Two of the people who are also displaced are the facilitators of our Sacred Ground initiative, Marianne Ahart and Lori Kizia. One due to some health issues that make it not safe for them to be around the air at the moment, and the other not back in the house yet. So I've stepped in to do, it was our collective wisdom that the work of Sacred Ground was too critical to the ongoing life of this congregation to not continue with this introduction. What we'd hope today would be a launch of our registration program for the initiative, which will be beginning soon. We're not registering people today. We will soon, but that date TBD. But we wanted to just sort of put a tent pole in the ground as we begin this important work, which has been way too long delayed in this congregation, to make sure on this MLK Sunday that we acknowledge the work we need to do, and we sketch out for the congregation the plan to do that work. So with that, I'll invite you into just a moment of prayer. God dwells in you. Holy God, we give you thanks for this, your people gathered, for the power of being together in community, whether it's live or Memorex or digital or in person. We give you thanks for your Spirit, which continues to feed us and fill us even in these moments of time and challenge, and for the opportunity to explore what it means to be a people who claim all ground as sacred and all human beings as beloved creatures of God, created as part of a beloved community. Amen. And I'm going to do a quick mic check. I feel like it's cutting in and out. Is that just my ears? Is there anything we can do about that, or we're just going to soldier on? Which I realize is a military metaphor, and I keep trying to not go there, but I'm old. Okay, well, we'll just keep going then. Progress, not perfection, right? All right, introduction to Sacred Ground. Going to start this morning with a quote because it is MLK Day. One of his most famous, "All life is interrelated. We're all caught up in an inescapable network of mutuality tied to a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." And that is an undergirding of all of this work of Sacred Ground that we're about to explore, that it is not, there is no us and them, because there is no them, there is only us. There is another element that must be present in our struggle that then makes our resistance and nonviolence truly meaningful, said Dr. King. That element is reconciliation. Our ultimate end must be the creation of the beloved community. And I added that quote not only because it's MLK Day, but because all of the work of Sacred Ground is grounded in that theology of beloved community, and we'll hear more about that in a moment. So what is Sacred Ground? It is part of Becoming Beloved Community, the Episcopal Church's long-term commitment to racial healing. It's open to all, the program, but it is specifically designed to help white people talk to other white people. Participants, as it says, are invited to peel away layers, and I love this language, that have contributed to the challenge and divides of the present day, all while grounded in our call to faith, hope, and love. And that's why I think the labyrinth has been used as an icon for Sacred Ground, because it's a journey both inward and outward. And it's not a journey we only do once. It's a journey we repeat again and again, because every time we journey inward, we find out something else. And then we are able to journey outward again. And I am going to call up my friend Jim White, who's probably watching me and says, don't just read PowerPoints to them. So I'm not reading, I'm quoting, I'm just going to say. So peace out. So a Sacred Ground exists, as it says, an attempt to be responsive to the challenges that we're facing, not just in this congregation or community, but in the world, around race and racism, as well as equipping us for tools for respectful dialogue we need to have with each other. And I would add, not only about these, but about everything else. And right now, in this polarized and divided world, nation, and community, Sacred Ground will equip us not only to find brave spaces to talk about race and racism and unexamined privilege, but also how do we equip ourselves and each other to be in conversation about all of the differences that challenge us. The differences that we live in a world right now where there are those who are determined to turn our differences into divisions in order to profit from them and in order to exploit and keep us divided. So that's a different presentation, but if you'll just keep that as an undercurrent as we go forward. It will invite us to walk back through our history and peel away some of the layers and reflect not only on national history, but on our own stories as well. And I'll tell you, I've gone through this program 3 times now, once initially as a participant and twice as a dialogue circle leader. Every time I do it, I learn something new. And I keep thinking, man, they never taught me that in 5th grade. You know, I have, and I was a history major. That was my undergrad. So I learned all kinds of things that I just didn't even know I didn't know, and I'm so grateful for. And again, it holds the vision of beloved community as a guiding star. This is not a program designed to blame, shame, or attack anyone. It's about inviting us all into conversations with each other so we can learn more about ourselves and more about the world that we live in and how we can be those empathetic listeners and creators of safe space for everyone, where we weep at another's pain and seek each other's flourishing. The producer of the program is someone named Katrina Brown. I don't know if any of you are familiar with her. She produced a film called Traces of the Trade, which was a long documentary a number of years ago. And she is a Northeasterner. And what occurred to her midway through her life was the great aha that the problem with racism and slavery, she couldn't keep blaming on those people down south. Because her people hadn't been slave owners. Well, no, but it turned out they were slave traders. It turned out they were people who profited from the sale of other human beings. It turned out that a lot of her inherited wealth was based on that, and she wanted to be able to tell that story in order to call others into being aware of it, being able to repent of it, and also to look at where can I leverage my privilege in order to be part of a world that's going to try and repair the damage that was done. Damage that can never be completely repaired, but to ignore it and not participate is to ignore the gospel imperative to love your neighbor as yourself and do what we can to be there for them the way Jesus would be. So a little bit about the All Saints Church context, and I'll be very clear, this is just the gospel according to me. So as many of you will know, All Saints, we are a resource predominantly white congregation with a growing percentage of BIPOC members. And we're proud and justifiably of decades of leveraging that privilege in the service of social justice. Two of our core values are radical inclusion and courageous justice. And there's always an and. We're also a community where the very privilege we've had that's been the source of the power behind our legacy has been largely unexamined. And I say largely, it has not been completely unexamined. We've done some work, we've done some good work. I think I see a couple heads nodding, thank you, appreciate that. Back in a decade or so ago, we worked with Visions, which was a great program about multiculturalism and appreciation of differences, and some of that work was done, and it was good work, it was hard work, and it was empowering work, but it wasn't enough. And it includes part of the untold, or at least undertold story of our history, which includes a participation in Jim Crow racism by participating in the founding of St. Barnabas, our sister congregation up the road. We've done a lot of work about that over recent times, and that work continues, but it's part of our long-term legacy that work had gone largely undone. So, in 2016, which if you're as old as I am, feels like not very long ago, but I do the math, and it was a while, it was peace, friends. Back there, vestry adopted a racial justice resolution intended to equip the congregation to engage in that deep dive of that undone work, unpacking the racial dynamics of our unexamined privilege, and it created a formation of a racial justice advisory board, what we like to call RJAB, because we love our acronyms, to assist in implementing 10 of the various resolves. So not going to read this to you. You can find it on the website. If you check vestry resolutions, it's up there. I see a couple of you trying to take shots of this program. I will tell you it will be online, but I'm also going to post it as a PDF that you can download if you want. We'll link that on the website early next week. So here's the racial justice resolution, the Be It Resolved part. About interrupting racism in all of its manifestations. But I wanted to call out 2 of the 10 therefores, which have direct implications for the work that we're going to do with Sacred Ground. One is to increase opportunities for members to build cross-racial awareness, sensitivity, empathy, knowledge, and develop skills in intergroup relations. It's exactly what this program is designed to do. And create brave spaces for courageous conversations where all are heard and encouraged to commit to sit with discomfort. So this, in some way, is an answer to how Sacred Ground is part of finally implementing that racial justice resolution, which I'll just, again, gospel according to me. I have the microphone, so to me, I think it is a deep sadness that we adopted that resolution in 2016, and it has gone largely unimplemented for the last 8 years. And then my experience, sadly, in this congregation is a lot of the people who most need to do the work that the Racial Justice Advisory Board is calling us to do, people like me, people who look like me, people who are white people with privilege and a heart for justice, who are willing to engage in the work, were not provided an opportunity to do that. And that was a failing for our system at large to hold ourselves and each other accountable. And I'm part of the leadership here. I don't flatter myself I have all that much power, but I do want to account and acknowledge that in this open forum. And for the record, that is something we failed to do the way we could and should have done. And now we're moving ahead trying to make some amends for that, but also move forward into this new chapter in a way that calls us into the wholeness and the health that not only Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit will bring the whole Trinity in writ large, but also our hearts for justice and the DNA of this place calls us to do. I think it is way past time, and this is an opportunity. So next steps. Sacred Ground, as I say, is not new to All Saints. In 2021, several parish leaders and staff participated when the diocese launched the beta launch of Sacred Ground here in the diocese. And I also put my other hat on for a moment. In addition to being an associate priest here at All Saints, I'm also the canon for engagement at the diocese, work with Bishop Taylor. So this falls under my portfolio there as well to implement this across the diocese. Many of those who participated at the time were hoping that we would be able to launch that here, and it didn't happen, and now it is. And leave it there. We're grateful to be returning now to use this process as one of the ways that we can work at healing the wounded relationships. I am confident, we are confident that this is a program that will offer one of the steps we need to move forward, and deeply grateful that to Marianne Ahart and Lori Kizia for stepping up to serve as coordinators for this initiative here at All Saints. Some of you know Marianne as a longtime member, vestry member, fabulous facilitator, and also Lori, who was at one point our Director of Peace and Justice here at All Saints, before she went off to get her MSW, and has spent a little over a decade now as a clinical director for LA Homeless Healthcare, working with unhoused folks who meet at the center of persistent mental illness and homelessness and addiction. So retired now, she and Marianne have both been willing to pour a ton of energy and their considerable organizational gifts into creating an architecture for this rollout, which again, we had hoped we'd be registering people today, but we are not, but we will. So the timeline to introduce Sacred Ground begins today with y'all, and thank you for showing up. I wasn't sure if we get 2 or 3 or 4, but thank you for being here. Registration is planned to begin in February, but at the moment, absolutely everything is penciled in, so it will begin as soon as we can begin it. We'll just say that. There's already a plan in place to do that. We have the facilitators have, coordinators have identified facilitators who are going to do training for facilitating the groups. That'll be starting, again, as soon as we can, with a goal to actually launch. It's an 11-week series. Our idea at this point is to do it every other week, so you can do the bits of homework in between, which involves some reading, some watching videos, and again, the reading tends to be a chapter of this, an essay on that. I'm looking at Terry. It's not EFM. You have to read like a whole book before Thursday. And there will be opportunities for both in-person and online dialogue circles, daytime and evening, weekday and weekend groups. And so we will have more information about that, I hope soon, but appreciate the extra grace required, as our priest in charge keeps reminding us, thankfully. And so we've extended our rollout deadline because of the Eaton Fire Canyon disaster, but stay tuned. And I've already said about the trained facilitators. And there is an email if you want to jot down. It's pretty easy to remember, SacredGroundASC@gmail.com. And that'll be on that is on the website as well. If you go to our website too, as you scroll down, there are 4 boxes we have in the middle of the homepage with stuff that we're holding out front. One of them is about Sacred Ground, and a lot of this information will be there, and that's where we'll link this presentation as well if you want to find it later. And finally, the work of becoming beloved community is not just about white people talking to white people about unexamined privilege. It's also about people of color having the opportunity to gather in safe spaces and explore the impact of white supremacy and racism on them, on their communities across difference. Internalized racism is the language we use for that. And this is a quote from Chase, who at one point we thought we were going to do this together, and then realized in the wake of the fire and the wake of him preaching twice, so he sent me a quote. So pretend I'm Chase. I'm not going to try but just put him in your head and think that we understand that while we're all called to this work, the work doesn't always look the same for everyone. With that reality in mind, I've been exploring the implementation of sessions that are uniquely designed for our BIPOC communities. So it'll be a parallel process that'll be happening alongside our Sacred Ground gatherings. The program we're looking at comes from our African descent ministries at the National Episcopal Church. It's called Healing from Internalized Depression. One of the quotes that's on that curriculum is as follows: "We're going to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery, for though others may free the body, none but ourselves can free the mind. Mind is our only ruler and sovereign," by Marcus Garvey. Healing from Internalized Depression offers a series of modules, sort of like Sacred Ground, but with different content, and gives folks a chance to explore all of these noted issues, institutional, interpersonal, and into healing process, and challenging personally explore their lives and experiences, which invites them on a journey toward wholeness. And I don't know if any of you noticed the photo I snagged from the website. That's our own Lester McKenzie, who's a diocesan priest there who's participated in this program as well. So Chase goes on to share that a meeting with the National Church he'd scheduled for January 9th to start talking about implementation, but that didn't happen because of the fires. So in the process of being rescheduled, and he continues, these oppressive systems, structures, hierarchies, and beliefs and values are things that don't just infiltrate society, but they infiltrate our minds, hearts, culture, and very bodies. We're continuing to examine pathways for folks of color to address this truth. And even as I'm reading this, I cut and pasted this yesterday, making the PowerPoint. It's making me think of where we are right now in Altadena, Pasadena, all aware of all that's infiltrating us, the pain of our neighbors, the smoke and the ash, the toxins we can't even see, but are seeping into our systems, into our waters, through our windows. It's going to be a long haul process to clean that up. And overused quote of mine, but as Sister Joan Chittister called us, to reclaim the planet an inch at a time till the Garden of Eden grows green again. That doesn't feel very metaphorical to me at the moment. It feels very real. And I would say that analogy holds also for the toxins of racism, of otherism, however we live that out in the world. And this is our opportunity to be part of that toxic cleanup, wherever we find ourselves on the journey, that there's work for us to do as we continue this journey to becoming a beloved community that God would have us be. I want to close before we open it up for a few questions and feedbacks before we head to church with this prayer for social justice from our Book of Common Prayer. The Lord be with you. Grant, O God, that your holy and life-giving Spirit may so move every human heart that barriers which divide us may crumble, suspicions disappear, and hatred cease, that our divisions being healed, we may live in justice and peace. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Endeth the PowerPoint presentation. And here beginneth a few minutes of Q&A. Anybody have any questions? Ben, can you get a mic? I see Maddie going to the mic. I see Tim going to be the role of Phil Donahue. Well, I'm dating myself terribly.
Thank you for doing this morning and keeping us grounded in sacred ground. My question is, last summer there was an event that had some energy controversy around it, and my impression was it felt like some of the conversation around that concert and not concert was brought short, or there was some more opportunity to talk about that. Could you just address a little bit how this intersects that?
I think that's a little bit beyond my bandwidth. I'm looking at Tim. Do you want to say a word about that?
Well, I do have the microphone.
You do have a microphone.
First, I should say that there's no question that we need to come back to that flashpoint and to some of what was said and the pains that were experienced before coming back to it, so we don't just experience another iteration of that. We need to lay down a foundation that has a deeper awareness of who we are and how we are and all of that. So my sense is that this piece of work is one element of that foundation, because what we want to do is set ourselves up for healing and reconciliation. This piece of work represents one element of that. But the assurance is, at some point in time, we got to come back and revisit what happened last end of the spring and summer.
Thanks. Others? Deb?
I'm just wondering, I understand that we're having the affinity groups and then there's a separate program that Chase is leading. But I've had people question that, even a person of color who tried to come back to All Saints last week, and I was talking with her, and she said, well, why aren't we together doing this work? So if you could help me articulate, give me some words.
Yeah. My understanding, and again, I am not a DEI professional. I'm looking at one, but and I think the curriculum does a really good job of describing. To be really clear, if people of color want to participate in Sacred Ground, they are more than welcome. And there's language of welcome, but the reality is, for white people to do their work, there is a particularity of being able to tell your stories, work together, work out your stuff in a way that is healing. And actually, Monique, do you have anything to say about? I see you're nodding your head, and this is your wheelhouse. So I'm going to call other people into this work.
Hi, everyone. Monique Thomas. I was actually one of the co-authors of the Racial Justice Resolution, myself and Johari DeWitt-Rogers and Edna Trigg, so 2 other women of color. So part of the reason why we do, it's separate and together, it's both and, it's really leaning into who we are as a church, is that there is a way of living in this country in 2 different realities in terms of race. And what we need is for white folks to get together and have those conversations and have them in safe spaces. So part of it is, I don't want to have to be the one answering questions about racism because it is labor emotionally on me. But there are white folks who, like a Tim Wise, like you, many of whom have heard him speak here, and other folks that are part of RJAB and the Racial Justice Ministry that can lead those conversations. There's also internalized racism, which we as people of color, because as I've explained the analogy before, it's like going to Vegas, you get smoke in your clothes. When you come back, you have to take care of it, even if you weren't the one smoking. So even folks, all of us, Black, white, Latin, Asian, we all are a part of a culture that privileges whiteness. And we have been impacted that as people of color, and we need our own space to talk about that. There will be space to come together, but the purpose of doing it in this way is so that everyone has the space to get real and have those honest conversations without, oh my gosh, I'm worried I'm gonna say the wrong thing and offend, the Black person in the room or the Latin person in the room. It's like, no, you get in there and you learn and you get it all out, and then we come back together when we're a little bit more, on the same page with the learning. I will say, and just real quick on that, I am so excited. The reason I stick around is because I'm, for the first time in a long time, hopeful about this work. And to Susan's point, I was so happy that you acknowledged that there's a failure of leadership and of the system to take the resolution and the RJAB recommendations and go forward. And now it seems like we're taking it seriously, and we actually, because it starts from the top, we cannot do this without leadership. We cannot do this without staff investory. To lead the congregation, we have to be in the right place to do it. So I'm excited for the work that we're doing, and I want to encourage everyone too, when it's available, to sign up and go on this journey with us.
Thank you, Monique.
Can I just add one other thing, and I do this humbly because I've been learning and listening since I've arrived. A woman by the name of Angela Blackwell has presented to us and spoken to us, and about affinity groups, she said, they are important. They're also not the not where you want to be at the end game. They are important for all the reasons that Monique just spoke about so beautifully. But just to add that this is a step in the direction of where we want to be at the end game. I just thought that was so helpful to hear her sort of do the both and.
I'm Jane Brust. Just real quick comment. I wanted to follow up on Monique's good comments and what Tim said earlier. I'm interested in this program because I want to learn. I want to learn. And I want that safe place to ask questions because I am very nervous about offending anyone, which would never be my intent. But I don't know what I don't know. And I really am open to learning and having the safe place to discuss. And to put an even finer point on it, back to Ben's question of Tim, I would be very happy if we could constructively revisit a bit of what happened months ago. I was out of the country. I read about it. I heard about it from just a few people. I'm sitting here today. I still have no clue. And I refrained from asking a lot of questions because I didn't want to offend anybody. Now, that's on me, but I'm still clueless. And so that little chapter, which other chapters followed, is really important in the history of this place that I love. So I appreciate the program opportunity, and I appreciate the chance to revisit one episode.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Moore. Years ago, I was served on the leadership committee, and when it was my turn to be the leader of the leadership committee, it got dissolved. We were told, you're not to do it anymore. One of the things that we did is a model for this, and it was to have courageous conversations, and they were all focused about politics and other things than race. And it was, oh, Thanksgiving's coming, and your uncle who is a Trump supporter is going to be there. How can you talk around the table and respect each other and do those kinds of things? And those meetings weren't, they didn't solve the problems, but they were a step. And I think that's something we could do just to revitalize that program. It's still there in the
It's another, I think, thanks for that, Terry. I remember it well, too. I'm thinking back way in the day. It was Rick Tyne and Kathy Clement and Louise Brooks of blessed memory and Donna Machado and others. And back then, it was the Bush years, and we were trying to talk across divides. So some things change and some things stay the same. So, yeah, the methodology, I think, is congruent. And the thing about Sacred Ground is it offers us the opportunity to take that methodology and use brilliant scholarship and a really great curriculum. Again, I'm a fangirl of the program, as I said at the beginning. For those of you who weren't here, I've been through it 3 times, once as a beta test and then twice as a dialogue circle leader. And it really is pretty brilliantly designed to sort of peel the onion and invite us in to conversations. And it isn't just about black-white racism. Oh, that's a the most, I think, identifiable and permeable part of our culture. But it also teaches us, or taught me anyway, things I had no idea about the history of California and what AAPI people have been up against in this country, as well as a whole panoply of pieces that help us better unpack what it means to be part of dismantling oppression in all its forms. So thank you for that.
Can I just say something that your comment sort of illustrates? So there's no magic pill. There's no one solution or quick fix, obviously. So if there are other programs, let us know. What we're trying to do as the leadership team is be discerning about what, when, and just get out of the starting blocks. And because sometimes we get caught up in, well, not this program, we should do this program, and we should do that program. And meanwhile, we're splashing around without doing any program. So the Sacred Ground is one step, one piece of a tapestry. And maybe the training around courageous conversations is another piece. So we are open. I mean, Monique is expert, and I'm going to follow her out of the woods. We are open to other wisdom, other experiences as well. We're just trying to one step forward.
So I'm going to actually quote, while the microphones go, I'm going to quote Tim Rich very quickly, who is relatively new to, you've been here, what, 5 months now? 6 months, okay. Which is like dog years, I think, the dog, over the last year. But as someone who come into All Saints Church, made the observation that All Saints has always had plenty of oars in the water. I mean, it's one of the things we're known for. But we've had times in our life when we were doing more splashing than we were doing propelling. And now working with leadership that is collaborative, but also trying to be clear about how we're going to row together to move forward, not, I don't want to, not just kick up splash for a while. So I think that's part of where we are, and I'm super grateful for that. Leadership and also vision for us as we move, validating what we've done in the past, but also calling us. I am checking the clock. We're at 9:36. We want to let Keith go at 9:40 to set up for church. So we're going to do one more.
I've got a mic, actually, and I'm going to use it. So I'm Maddie Briggs, and this is not so much a question as an observation, just something I've been sensitive to, and I'm sure everyone is aware that the fires have really predominantly impacted people of color, our African-American community in Altadena. And this is something that I'm just watching and wondering, or maybe it's just something I'm aware of, we're all aware of as we do this work in real time, as that community is trying to build and facing like generational wealth loss, just an insurmountable kind of mountain of challenges. And it's real life stuff that this is impacting in their lives.
Right. So we, if you could not hear Maddie at the end because the mic cut out, that we are operating right now with multiple layers of pain. But there is no hierarchy of pain. There is really sort of no, there's, actually our friend Gene Robinson likes to talk about the oppression Olympics. There's no gold medal, there's no podium, you don't get to, and one of the things I've seen way too much of is some of my white siblings trying to figure out, okay, how can I get in on this victimization thing? Because clearly being a victim is going to get a payoff. And that can't be what any of this is about. What this is about, to go back to the presentation, which again, to repeat as a summary as we're closing, is will be available online, both on Facebook and on YouTube, the spoken part, but the slides will be on a PDF you can download and check out and share. And I hope those of you who are ministry leaders will share it with your teams, whether you're ushers or greeters or EFM leaders or senior saints members, and encourage folks in your cohort to come and be part of Sacred Ground when we launch, so we have a good turnout across the congregation. But also to recognize all of this is in service of the broader work of becoming beloved community. And that includes everything. We're also, I mean, this is January 19th. Tomorrow is January 20th, which is not just Martin Luther King Day. It is the beginning of a new chapter in our nation, when our immigrant and refugee siblings are have their bags packed and ready to go just in case, because a wildfire of oppression and demonization is about to sweep down on them as well. So all of that layers and layers of pain Maddie referenced, we need to be not only equipped for, but nimble enough to respond to. And nowhere better to do that than All Saints. What I have seen over this last, I don't know how many days, as we've been on the other side, coming on the other side of the wildfire, is literally a phoenix arising from the ashes of people responding from throughout the congregation and community community to be beloved community in action. And the people who've been touched, the lives who've been helped, made safe, given water, given shelter, given hope, is just a tiny icon of what we can do when we're all rowing in the same direction, when we're being, when we cease the competitiveness and turn to being the cooperative people God would have us be as we live out God's values of love, justice, and compassion in the world. So thank you for that. If you are already at church, you know that Chase has a great sermon for us, and we're going to celebrate Dr. King. If you haven't been to church, go now. If you're online, stay online and stream us. But whoever you are and wherever you find yourself on the journey today, we're glad you're here. We ask you blessings on your day. Remember, be kind, be safe, be love, and resist oppression in all its forms. Amen.